Hey everybody, Shwazy here, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing 5 reasons why I would pick a 2023 BMW i4 over a Tesla Model 3. This is going to be an interesting video. Okay, so in case you aren't aware, the 2023 BMW i4 is the first ever all-electric sports sedan from BMW. It's essentially the same thing as the 4 Series Grand Coupe, but instead of an internal combustion engine, this is powered by a all-electric powertrain. Now, there really aren't very many all-electric sports sedans currently on the market. A lot of the new electric vehicle entrants are crossovers or SUVs or trucks, and not necessarily sports sedans. And so the one competitor that obviously comes to mind when we're talking about a 4-door sports sedan is of course the Tesla Model 3. And I thought it would be very wise to compare the Tesla Model 3 to the BMW i4 because they're both competing for the same market share. They are very similar in terms of their pricing, their size, and just the target audience. So I'm actually going to start off today's video comparing the facts and figures between the BMW i4 and the Tesla Model 3. Now, more specifically, this one is the M50 package, which is essentially the sport package. This is the most high-performance i4 that you can currently get on the market. And so as a result of that, I'm actually going to compare this vehicle to the Model 3 Performance because they're very similar in terms of price point and performance stats. And then I'm going to wrap up this video talking about 5 reasons why I think you should consider the BMW i4 M50 over a Tesla Model 3 Performance. Now, let's start things off with pricing. Now, the i4 M50 starts at $65,900. Now, keep in mind, this is the 2022 version, and the price has increased a little bit for 2023. So if you choose this exact same trim and spec as of 2023, you're going to have to pay $67,300 for the base model. Now, this one in particular goes all the way up to $77,070. Now, let's talk about the same type of pricing for the Tesla Model 3. As of this recording on Monday, October 3rd, the pricing for a Tesla Model 3 Performance is $62,990. So you have about a $63,000 car compared to about a $67,000 car with the M50. So the winner there goes to the Tesla Model 3 Performance because it is a few grand cheaper. Okay, so now let's talk horsepower figures. Now, Tesla doesn't blatantly state on their website what the horsepower is of the Model 3 Performance, but I was able to find through various sources that the Model 3 Performance has 450 horsepower and 417 pound-feet of torque. This thing, on the other hand, has 536 horsepower and 586 pound-feet of torque. So it is quite a bit higher in terms of horsepower and torque, which means the BMW i4 does take the cake in terms of horsepower wars. Now, the caveat to that is the fact that 0 to 60 times will surprise you. So the BMW i4 actually does 0 to 60 on paper at 3.7 seconds. Now, there are reviews on the internet showing it do 0 to 60 in about 3.4 seconds, and I can't actually test that myself because I don't have a performance recorder that can actually track that. I just have to use a stopwatch, and that's not very reliable in terms of 0 to 60 times. But the Tesla Model 3 Performance, according to Tesla, can do 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. Now, I'm not sure if either one of those is really reliable because Tesla has been known to do a different type of 0 to 60 test, one that's used more by like journalism and not necessarily by auto manufacturers, and so they may be a little bit overstating their performance. At the same time, BMW is known to somewhat understate their acceleration to kind of underpromise and overdeliver. So, you know, when he's talking about 0.5, 0.6 second difference 0 to 60, or in reality, if we're talking about a 3.4 second 0 to 60 on this one and a 3.1 on the Model 3, that is really a negligible difference in 0 to 60. So I will give Tesla the upper hand or the point here for the best 0 to 60, but when you're talking about real life driving, you're likely not really going to notice a difference. And in terms of which one's going to be quicker to 60 off the line, if you're just standing at a stoplight, well, that may really depend on just how much weight is inside of the vehicle based on the number of individuals and the cargo you have. So it's really a very minuscule difference between the two. Now, top speed is where it becomes a slightly bigger difference. Now, the BMW i4 is said to do a top speed of 130 miles per hour, whereas the Tesla Model 3 Performance, according to Tesla, can do 162 miles per hour. So based on just those facts and figures, the Tesla Model 3 Performance does have the upper hand at 162 miles per hour. Now, I think the next obvious subject we should talk about is driving range because, well, that's a very important consideration when purchasing an all-electric vehicle. So, starting with the Model 3, the driving range for that, for the Model 3 Performance in specific, is 315 miles according to Tesla. Now, BMW has slightly different types of ranges. Depending on which type of wheel and tire setup you get on your M50, you're going to have a different type of mileage. This one in particular has the upgraded 20-inch wheels, and as a result of that, your range actually drops down to 227 miles. That is quite a big difference compared to the 315 from the Model 3. Now, that being said, if you do opt for the slightly smaller 19-inch wheels, you can get upwards of 271 miles of range. Now, that makes the difference a little bit closer, and here's, again, another thing to keep in mind. Tesla's right 315 miles, but there have been a lot of people who have reviewed them, myself included, although I did not have it for a long-term period, that have stated that Tesla's numbers on the website are a little bit overinflated, similar to some claims about their acceleration. Now, in my experience with this vehicle over the last week, this vehicle has been pretty true to what it's told me on the screen. And there were times where I ran a little bit of quick math to see how much would a full battery give me in terms of range. With my calculations, I was able to calculate that this vehicle could potentially go up to 280 miles on this 20-inch performance tires with the M50 package. Now, if you're seeing on the screen right now, this vehicle fully charged is telling me it could go upwards of 295 miles. So even though I will give the point again to Tesla based on just the raw facts and figures, I think in real life testing, which will take owning both of these cars and running them through the same conditions, the BMW i4 may likely get just as good range as the Tesla Model 3 Performance. I'm not going to make that claim because I haven't had an opportunity to test both in the same types of conditions, but just based on the information we have, we can make an assumption that these vehicles are probably closer than what the numbers are telling us. Okay, and as we're standing here next to a charger, we should probably address the charging infrastructure. And this is where it gets a little dicey because it really depends on how you look at the numbers. Now, this vehicle is compatible with lots of different charging stations, just like pretty much every other electric vehicle on the market. You know, I'm personally at a charge point station, but this vehicle will work with EVgo. There's also SEMA Connect, and of course, there's Electrify America. Now, according to my research, ChargePoint is actually the largest network by a pretty large margin in terms of the number of charging stations throughout America, with Tesla's supercharger network coming in as second, but a pretty far second as well. Now, I haven't personally had any issues finding a charger near my house or pretty much near my work or anywhere I go to, because here in Utah, there are quite a bit of stations all around the metropolitan areas, and so it's pretty easy to find one. On the other hand, there's not very many Tesla superchargers. I think there's probably 2 in like the greater Salt Lake City area, but there's definitely more of these types of chargers. Now, the difference here is there are many more level 2 chargers, which are not technically fast charging types of charge points. Currently, I'm using just a regular level 2 charger, and as you may have seen in the previous clip, it said it would get fully charged at 12 a.m. this morning. Now, I'm not going to stay here that long, but if I had hooked this up to a DC fast charger, it would likely cut that time maybe in half, maybe by a third, but unfortunately, there aren't any DC fast chargers in the location I'm at right now. Now, the other day, I did go to a DC fast charger nearby, and there were 3 stations available. One of them was occupied, the second was not working, and I plugged into the third. And it did tell me it was going to charge the car in about an hour and a half or so, and it's a pretty okay amount of time. But the point I'm trying to get across is that the Tesla supercharger network is DC fast charging pretty much at any station you go to, whereas all of the other charging stations have a varying level of charge, and so you may be stuck there overnight if you're planning on doing a road trip because you're not going to be able to fast charge your vehicle. You're going to need need a level 3 DC fast charger to get quick mileage into your vehicle to be able to continue on a road trip. The other factor to point out is, as a lot of people who have owned electric vehicles have stopped at Electrify America stations and other stations from other companies, they've noticed that not all of the stations work. Like I mentioned earlier, I went to a DC fast charger station and only 2 of the 3 stations were working. I have also heard there are various levels of kilowatts that are being pumped into the vehicle. So even though it may say level 2, it's not going to pump in as much as it technically could, and it may take a little bit longer to fill up your vehicle. So if we're talking about consistency purposes, well then yeah, the Tesla Model 3 supercharger network is likely going to be better because it's just more reliable. At the same time, if you're comparing the number of stations out there, then you might as well go for a BMW i4 because there's just a larger quantity. So that's why I said it's a little bit shaky in terms of how you compare it, because if you're looking at the numbers, the BMW is better, but if you're looking at likely reliability and faster charging, the Tesla supercharging network is better at that. The other consideration to make is with Tesla, you just have one application to use all of the supercharging network, whereas with any other type of vehicle, you're going to have to use either the ChargePoint app or the EVgo app or various different applications to be able to tap into all of the various stations. So it just adds an extra level of maybe complexity or just hassle to be able to charge your vehicle at different stations. Now let's also talk about fast charging capabilities, because both of the vehicles are capable at fast charging. Now, you would really have to put them side by side at the exact same station, pumping the exact same power, and they have to be both at the exact same level to really understand which one is quicker at charging. But I'll just give you some facts and figures, and I'm probably going to call this a wash because it's hard to really know without doing that type of test. For the Tesla, they say you can charge your car up to 200 miles in 15 minutes on their supercharger network. Again, that's a DC fast charger. Now, Inside EVs did a test, and they said that 0 to 100 on a V3 supercharger only took 1 hour and 3.5 minutes. Now, Tesla superchargers can do up to 250 kilowatts of energy into the vehicle at any point in time. BMW says you can get 97 miles on just 10 minutes of charge, and 10 to 80% of charge can be done in around 31 minutes. Now, the i4 is capable of charging at up to 200 kilowatts of power via a DC fast charger. Now, it is hard to compare apples to apples because they're doing the comparison at different starting points and at different types of stations. So to really know which one charges quicker or fast charges better, you really have to put them in the same type of environment and run a science experiment. Unfortunately, I do not have a Model 3 right here to plug into one of these stations, but I'll let you decide which one you think is best. Now, in terms of drivetrain, they're actually equal as well because both of them come with a dual motor setup, one in the front, one in the back. Okay, now let's talk about safety. Now, this thing has not been tested by any of the American safety programs because, well, it's just too new of a vehicle. So instead, I'm going to be using the European New Car Assessment Program and comparing the ratings between this and a Model 3. The Tesla Model 3 received a 5-star rating from the European New Car Assessment Program, whereas this thing only received a 4-star rating. So if you're talking about safety alone, the Tesla Model 3 received 1 greater star than the i4. Okay, since we're talking about safety, let's talk about the safety features that come on both vehicles. Now, the Tesla Model 3 comes with something called Autopilot as a $6,000 option. Now, if you add Autopilot to your vehicle, it will allow you to automatically change lanes, accelerate, decelerate, and then you can purchase even more and do enhanced autopilot, and that should start recognizing stoplights and stop signs in the near future. I don't believe that feature actually works yet. You're just purchasing the option to use it in the future. This thing, on the other hand, has very similar functionality. If you guys saw my 25 plus cool features of this vehicle, you'll see that this vehicle can actually change lanes for you just like a Tesla Model 3. And the difference is the driver assistance package, which includes that functionality, is only $1,700 on the BMW. Now, both of them have very similar functionality. They'll both find parking spots and park the vehicle for you. The only thing that Tesla has that I don't see this vehicle having is the summon feature, but I don't necessarily think that that is worth the additional $4,300 premium. For that reason, I would give the point to the BMW because you get a greater value for a lower price. And furthermore, if you start looking at the purchase price of both of these vehicles, when you add the safety features, you're coming at a starting price within $100 between those two vehicles. So if you are considering getting any type of safety add-on, the purchase price between the two is essentially the same. Now let's talk about fit and finish or build quality. And this is where I think the BMW also takes the upper hand. Starting off, you've got really soft touch materials throughout the cabin. You've got really nice leather, which is something the Tesla Model 3 does not offer. You cannot get real leather in the Model 3. You can only get vegan leather, whereas this is real leather in the BMW i4. And just in general, sitting down, this door sounds like a tank. If you guys recall, I did do a review of a Tesla Model 3 long range, not the performance one. And even though I really enjoyed it, the build quality wasn't as good as this. And it was not bad at all. I didn't have any complaints on it, but this thing feels more premium. It feels more well-made, more put together. Let me show you what the dash looks like, because that even further ties it in together and makes the BMW i4 take the lead compared to the Tesla Model 3 in terms of fit and finish. You know, starting off here, you have the ambient lighting, which is something the Model 3 does not come with. This is all a soft touch material throughout the entire dash. It's actually a faux leather. It may be real. I can't really tell. They have a certain name for it, but it is a soft touch material throughout the entire top end. It's not a rubberized material like it was in the Model 3. You've got real wood grain over here. It's an open pore wood, looks really nice. You've got an integration with aluminum. Down here, again, a little bit more of that wood, more of that really nice fit and finish, and just styling in general looks absolutely beautiful. It's definitely a little bit more like a traditional internal combustion engine or a traditional BMW, and that's why I like it. Everything is put together solid. Everything feels really good. Every time I've accelerated this vehicle, I have never heard any type of creaks or any rattles. I mean, even though it is a pretty new car, it's only got about 6,500 or so miles on it, it's still just a testament to the build quality that German manufacturing has. I mean, coming to the back, again, just really nice leather. You do have your own climate control back there, which I did not see in the Model 3 long range that I reviewed, and just this really nice material all over the cabin. Everywhere you place your hand is going to be soft touch material. Even the padding over here of this center arm console, this is soft touch and stitched material. I mean, look at the stitching on the steering wheel. You've got the M colors with the red and the blue. Just this attention to detail, everything is just put together extremely well and is no different than any other BMW you'll find on the market. Okay, now for the next category, let's talk about styling. Now, we already looked at the interior, talked about fit and finish, but what about the exterior? Well, looks are subjective, but I don't think anybody would say this is a bad looking vehicle. Aside from the controversial front grille, which I personally really like and not sure why everybody makes a big deal out of it, this thing looks really good. I mean, it's aggressive. You can instantly tell this is a BMW and people will turn their heads to look at it. Now, I'm going to get hated in the comments by this, but I argue that this is a better looking vehicle than the Tesla Model 3. Maybe it's because it's new, or maybe it's because it has a little bit more aggression to the front and rear end of the vehicle. You've got this really nice body line that's running along the side. It has kind of a squatty appearance to it, really making it look sportier, more down to the ground, whereas the Tesla Model 3, although not a bad looking car by any means, is just a little bit more plain. It kind of takes aerodynamics at the sacrifice of looks, and for that reason, it's just not as attractive or as big of a head turner as this BMW i4. And honestly, that's because Tesla prioritized drag coefficient. The drag coefficient of the Model 3 is 0.23, whereas the i4 is 0.24. So there's really just a difference of 0.01 in terms of drag coefficient, but in my opinion, that was worth the sacrifice because the looks of this vehicle are just better. This thing is clearly a very luxurious and high-end premium looking vehicle. This isn't just your run-in-the-mill EV. This is aggressive, especially at night with the LED taillights and the laser LED headlights. Now for the next category, let's talk about comfort and handling. And again, I would give it to the BMW. Now, I did a review of the Tesla Model 3 and I thought it was a very well-riding vehicle, but I was actually surprised at how comfortable this vehicle is with the 20-inch wheels. As a matter of fact, I'm very curious to drive the vehicle with 19-inch wheels because it's going to be even softer than this one, due to the bigger sidewall. This thing actually really surprised me with how well it soaks up bumps and railroad tracks and potholes. I expected this vehicle to ride like a BMW M product, which is kind of known to be a little bit rougher, a little bit, sportier at the sacrifice of comfort. Whereas this thing has really good handling on corners because of that lower center of gravity, and at the same time, you've got a really soft ride quality, something that's really hard to achieve because you kind of have to take one or the other. This thing rides like you would expect a luxury vehicle to ride. It is a BMW, and it holds true to that luxury ride quality that one would expect from something of this price point. That's not to say the Model 3 is uncomfortable, but this one just takes it a little bit to the next level. Okay, now let's talk about reliability. Now, it may be hard to see on the screen over here, but BMW offers a basic 4-year, 50,000 mile limited warranty, an 8-year, 100,000 mile powertrain battery warranty, and a 12-year unlimited mileage rust perforation limited warranty. So let's talk about the Model 3 now. Well, it's essentially the same. The Tesla Model 3 offers a 4-year, 50,000 mile limited warranty, just like the i4. But on the Model 3 Performance, Tesla offers an 8-year, 120,000 mile warranty. So it's about 20,000 more than this one. But because the BMW also offers the 12-year rust perforation warranty, I'm going to rate those as equal because in terms of years, they're exactly the same. And honestly, it's kind of a wash as to which one is going to offer a better warranty. Okay, now let's talk about availability. How quick can you get either the i4 or the Model 3? Well, that's again where Tesla will take the lead, mainly because they've had the first mover advantage and have been around for quite a few years producing electric vehicles. Tesla, according to their website, as of the date of this recording, said if I ordered a Model 3 Performance today, I would get it between October to November, so about 1 to 2 months lead time. This, on the other hand, I called my local BMW dealer and they said the i4 with the M50 package is about 1 year out from order date to delivery date. So if you're wanting one of these, you're gonna have to patiently wait. Now, to finish off the comparison before I talk about why I would pick this vehicle, I just want to briefly talk about a few features that this vehicle comes with that the Model 3 doesn't, and vice versa. First of all, the BMW i4 does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which the Tesla Model 3 doesn't. This thing does have enhanced sound on the interior that was produced in conjunction with Hans Zimmer, which is a famous movie composer. And I gotta say, that really adds to the driving experience of driving one of these vehicles. The sounds that are kind of pumped through the speakers, even though they're fake, it just kind of makes you feel like you're in a spaceship or you're doing something rather than just kind of a super quiet ride. This thing also does have, as you saw earlier, a digital instrument cluster display that gives you kind of the need-to-know information, the speed, etc., etc. And the last thing I want to mention is the i4, like I noted earlier, is just like an internal combustion engine. The only difference is really just the powertrain. I mean, everything else from the front to back, interior, exterior, even just how it rides is very similar to any other BMW. The Tesla Model 3, on the other hand, is a little bit different. I mean, it takes a little bit getting used to because it is a dramatic difference from just your internal combustion engines. Now, a couple things that the Tesla has that the BMW i4 doesn't is an operating frunk. This vehicle does not have any front storage space, even though it is all electric because, well, they retrofitted an internal combustion engine platform into an electric powertrain. And so they had to use all the available space, and so they weren't able to engineer a frunk into this vehicle. That is one advantage of the Tesla Model 3. The other one is, as a result of that, and because of the clever use of design, the Tesla Model 3 has more cargo space inside of the cabin. Even excluding the front trunk, you do have more space inside of the Model 3, although legroom, I think, is very similar between the two. The other advantage is you do have a little bit more tech inside of the cabin because, Tesla, I would say, is first of all a software company and second of all an automotive company. So you do have more functionality with that infotainment screen, everything from playing games while you're charging to security mode where it will actually record everything going on outside the vehicle in case, somebody scratches it or something, as you've seen on other YouTube videos. And so there is some really unique and cool software that the BMW i4 just doesn't have that same level as the Tesla Model 3. Okay, to wrap up this video, let me summarize with the 5 reasons why I would actually pick this over the Model 3, even though I think in my tally test, the Model 3 actually has more points than the i4. So here's why I would still pick this. First of all, I think this is a better value. What I mean by that is this is a BMW that starts around $67,000 and delivers a 0 to 60 that's better than a BMW M3. When we're talking about value, we're talking about buying a already luxury vehicle, because BMWs aren't cheap and they already hold a certain brand presence or a certain luxury level that, you know, Tesla, even though it has a very strong brand, isn't necessarily known for their ultra luxury type of branding. And this thing is. So when you're buying this vehicle, not only are you getting a high performance and all electric vehicle, you're getting a luxury vehicle. So in my opinion, this is a better value because you're getting kind of the best of both worlds, ultra performance and ultra luxury. Now, the second reason I would still pick this is, even though BMW drivers are known for a certain stereotype, I think Tesla owners are known for an even maybe worse stereotype. Tesla owners are very passionate about their vehicles, as I'm sure you'll see in the comments below. And, you know, sometimes when you're buying a brand, you're kind of associating yourself with a certain group of people. And, you know, sometimes Tesla is not known for being the best in terms of a community of vehicles. And so buying a Tesla, you're kind of automatically associating yourself with a certain stereotype, even if you don't agree with that stereotype whatsoever. Maybe a certain political party, maybe a certain view on the economy or on the environment. You're not just necessarily buying a car because it's a really good car that has really good charging infrastructure and really good performance. You're buying that culture. And unfortunately, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. And to me, I think that's a bad thing for a Tesla. Even though BMWs have a look about certain types of maybe jerk drivers, I still think that brand is a little bit less controversial than a Tesla brand. And so that's another reason why I think the BMW i4 is a good option for people, because there's a lot of people who are interested in electric vehicles, but they just don't want to own a Tesla. They don't want to be associated with that brand. And this is another option for that if you're looking for a sports sedan. The third reason I'd pick this is because, like I mentioned earlier, the Tesla is a little bit more different than an internal combustion engine. I think this is a great option for somebody who's slowly transitioning out of internal combustion engines, because from inside and out, it is the same thing as a 4 Series Grand Coupe. You still get all of the same advantages. You still have 2 screens inside. You still have a steering wheel that's not a yoke type of steering wheel. You still have all the same controls. Everything is just easy to understand, easy to learn, and it even looks just like any regular internal combustion engine vehicle. It doesn't have some sacrifices for the sake of drag coefficient, like I mentioned earlier. And so if you're looking at something that's a little bit more normal, I would recommend the BMW i4, and that's why I would pick it. To me, the Model 3 is almost more like an appliance. Yeah, it's very cool, it's very unique, but it's very simple, especially when you're talking about the interior, where it's essentially just a screen. So you can jump from one to the other, and it doesn't seem like there's really that much personality to it. Whereas with this vehicle, there's so many different ways that you can customize the interior and make it special and different and unique, and less like an appliance, because every single one you look at is going to be different. Speaking of looks, I personally prefer the looks of the i4, whether that's because I've seen the Model 3 so many times, but that is, of course, the fourth reason why I would pick this, is because this thing looks mean. Every time I pull this out of my garage, I'm excited to drive it because it's just a fun experience. It looks mean, it sounds mean on the inside. It's just a fun vehicle. Now, the fifth and final reason why I would pick the BMW i4 over the Model 3 is just because there are way too many Model 3s out there. They're a really popular vehicle, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's popular because the Model 3 is a great example. I mean, without the Model 3, we wouldn't have vehicles like this. I'll be the first to admit that. But there's just a million of them out there. Every time I go out, I see at least 3 or 4 Model 3s within like a 5-mile radius. Whereas this thing, even though they're going to increase production, just like other BMWs, you're not going to see them as often. And so if you have the same amount of money as a Model 3 Performance, you might as well go for this, because this thing is going to be a little bit more unique driving down the road. Well, there you have it, folks. That was my in-depth comparison between the Model 3 Performance and the i4 M50. Now, I've reviewed both cars, and I've really enjoyed both. I have nothing bad to say about Tesla vehicles. I may have a different thing to say about the company itself, but the vehicles are fantastic. There's a reason there's so many of them on the road, because they really are amazing. And as you saw with the stats, even though this is a brand new vehicle, there are some things that the Tesla Model 3 still does better, even though that is technically an older vehicle. But to me, this thing feels more bespoke and more luxurious. I think the BMW i4 is a luxury vehicle first and a electric car second, and that is why I picked this over the Model 3. I am curious to hear your thoughts down in the description below. Let me know what you think between the two vehicles. Which one would you take? Because I don't think it's an easy choice. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly videos. Everything from internal combustion engines to crossovers to electric vehicles, of course. And also check me out on all of the social media down in the description below at Schwazy_. And I appreciate you all sticking around till the end of this video. So as always, I hope you stay Schwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.